Now go.
I think you are now ready. Ready to hear what happened 100 years ago. The words of guidance you have been hearing since your awakening from Princess Zelda herself. Even now, as she works to restrain Ganon from within Hyrule Castle, she calls out for your help.
Hello and welcome to Comics to Console Crusade. This is the podcast where Pat, Joe, and I comb through my extensive yard sale acquired retro video game collection to discuss the best and worst of comic book oriented video games. And today's featured game is Wolverine on the NES. Before we get started, let's meet the host of the show. We'll introduce one another and ask each other to describe Wolverine, the game on the NES, in 3 words. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to Pat. Pat, if you'd be so kind as to give me the first 3 words that pop into your head when you think of Wolverine on the NES.
Well, thank you, Jarrod. I'm glad you asked. The first 3 words that pop into my mind are jump, duck, punch.
You know, that sounds like Parappa the Rapper. Jump, duck, punch.
Punch, duck, roll. Don't be ducky. It's about to get rocky.
Oh, my goodness. As a fun side note, Pat, I found out that Parappa the Rapper has actually gone up in value quite a bit.
Oh, I can believe that.
Very collectible game. My son, my almost 9-year-old son, was watching somebody play on YouTube. He's like, Dad, can we get that game? I was like, I've got that game, but I couldn't find it. So I was like, I'll just buy another copy on now.
Sorry, son.
Nah.
Anyway, back to Wolverine. That's a pretty good assessment, Pat.
It is. It is.
All right. And now I'd like to introduce our on-staff musical genius, Joe November. Joe, how would you describe Wolverine using only 3 words? And you can't use the 3 words I used.
Let's see. Wolverine got nerfed.
That's not bad.
I would allow you a half-C word. Joe, you can use a half-C word.
Like a contraction?
Like a contraction? Oh my gosh. No, Wolverine got nerfed. Once I played this game for this discussion and started to play, and the more frustrated I got, yeah, that's what kind of kept coming into my head. So more to come.
All right.
And now I'll turn the question on to my old friend, Jarrod Albrick, a.k.a. Death Pro. Jarrod, please describe Wolverine using only 3 words.
Okay, get ready, because the first one might throw you. Here we go. Incredible box art.
Ooh.
The positive spin. Love it.
It's like a mini Posicast. I'm saying, like, that box art is banging. Let's not lie. Could you imagine holding it in your hand as a kid? Like, oh.
The range of emotions that you're going to feel moments later.
It's like some kid going, oh, man, I got a box of this nice candy. I can't wait to open it up. And you open it up, it's like, oh, it's all the grandma candy that was left over.
Broccoli.
Yeah. Black licorice personified.
I actually love black licorice, but, you know.
Oh, my goodness. All right. Well, we'll get into it. Let's throw it over to Joe, and he's going to lay out the specs of Wolverine on the NES, a segment we like to call All Your Specs Are Belong to Us.
How are you, gentlemen? All your base are belong to us. You are on the way to destruction.
Thanks, Jarrod. So for this game, Wolverine, it was released in October of 1991. The publisher was LJN, and the developer was Software Creations. And the game type is considered a side-scrolling action platformer. It's actually 2-player, but you have to take turns.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
I did not realize that either.
Kind of like old Super Mario Brothers style.
Yes. Now, back to Jarrod, where he'll use his yard sale to eBay skills for a segment we call Cache Memory.
All right, guys. you know, you might have picked up the hint that this isn't the world's best game, but you know what? It's still a fairly collectible game. I was doing some research on eBay. A loose cartridge-only copy of this game, you can still get about $15 for it. If you have it complete, we're talking box instructions and all that, it's about $75. And then as far as like a factory sealed copy, I have no idea. eBay only kind of shows you records of sales from the last 90 days or so, and no one has sold one. So it's kind of like, I don't really know what a sealed copy would go for. If you forced me to guess, a good rule of thumb is usually about 10 times a complete. So I'm betting it's about $750 for a sealed, but that is an absolute guess. They can go for a lot more. They can go for less. But anyway, nobody knows. The data is not conclusive. But anyways, if you got a complete one, you're looking at about $75, and the loose one's $15, and that's not really bad for an NES card.
Do you think it is because of the box art?
I think maybe. I think it's because of the box art and the sort of the cachet of the X-Men name and Wolverine. I think people out there like just want to get a full collection of superhero games.
Okay.
Yeah. It's all about the brand.
Yeah, because even the Uncanny X-Men game does pretty well, and that game is worse than this game by a good margin, by the way. Maybe it'll show up on the show one time.
Oh, no.
Yeah, look forward to that. Oh, my God, that game is... Anyways, now that we've got all the pertinent info hashed out, let's take a quick podcast promo break, and we'll come back and talk about the gameplay and all that fun stuff around Wolverine.
Who's Editing? A thought experiment in which Siskoid and his guest appoint themselves editors of a comic book line at DC Comics. But the joke's on them, because they can only use the characters of a specific issue of Who's Who, and in fact must use them. Great ideas? Yes, we think so. Cool reinventions? Of course. Crisis fatigue? We guarantee it. Who's Editing? Now on its own feed, only at the Fire and Water Podcast Network, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify.
All right, welcome back from the break. We hope you enjoyed the promo from that friend of the show. Now, let's talk about our gaming experience around Wolverine. We're going to talk about highs and lows around the game. Then at the end, we'll wrap it up and give our final thoughts, and we'll go ahead and rate this game on a scale of 1 to 10. Let's get to it. We're going to do 2 rounds of highs and lows, and of course, if we have burning things we need to talk about, we'll expand that a bit. But in our first round, Joe gets to go first. Joe, in round 1, are you going to go to the high, or are you going to come out swinging low on Wolverine? What you going to do?
I think I'm going to hit below the belt on this one coming out the gate.
All right, what's your first negative thought?
The gameplay is just absolutely terrible. Just trying to maneuver around, figuring out what to do, what can't I do as Wolverine in this game. It seriously took me 9 deaths before I could figure out I could retract my claws and fight with claws. Because I was like, where is Wolverine's claws? I don't understand where I'm just punching right now and kicking right now. And, it uses energy when you use it? What? That's an interesting dynamic. Yeah.
By interesting, you mean bad.
Yeah, like that was a terrible, terrible decision, a gameplay decision. Why? That doesn't make any sense to me. So, yeah, terrible gameplay.
I'm trying to remember how you popped the claws. Was it select?
It was select. It was select, yeah.
Because you had to choose the different special abilities that you would eventually gain, right?
No, there's no special ability to gain. Except for, I think you generate berserker energy.
Yeah.
Right. And I found that supremely useless when it was executed because you didn't go anywhere when you did it. You would just be berserk in one spot. And if the enemies come to you, great. If not, you're just berserking out in like one specific area. You can't really move.
I like berserker.
Well, Pat, it's your turn to talk anyway. So what's your initial round thought on Wolverine?
My initial thought on this one is, oh, man. As I mentioned in the early thing, I got more than 3, so I had to use 3. It was basically run, jump, duck, punch, avoid your way through each level is what you kind of really do. And the focus really more is probably avoid. So if you can do your timing right And that's where I can see some frustration would be in this game. I mean, there's only 9 levels
Right.
that you would go through, and it's a maze to find different doors. And sometimes a door just leads to a little secret area.
Yeah, the bonus
And then-
stage. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then you're out, and then you're back to the level to find your way again into the other door area to get to the next level. So it's kind of what the kids are saying nowadays. They call it a Metrovania style game. But at the time, it's, with Metroid and Castlevania, that's the new lingo I heard. Metrovania.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to drop it here, but where else could I drop it but here,
That's true.
But looking at that, it seems like it was kind of fun, at least arcade style, where you got to find the maze and know the pattern and know how to jump. So, man, it would frustrate me on this one because I'm not good at that stuff.
It's not terribly intuitive as to where you can go, what you can jump on, what can't you jump on. There's a couple, more than one, I believe, leaps of faith
Yeah,
you have to make just by learning the layouts of the levels. That back in the day on the NES, those were considered like cool secrets, but now it's just like annoying. It's like, I don't want to have to jump.
Yeah, jumping. Is there something
6
below me
times.
or what?
Yeah, to figure out whether or not there's a platform down there.
Yeah.
Jarrod, what about your thoughts?
I'm kind of rolling into them already, but it's really kind of a repackaging of what Joe was saying. Like, if you have a character like Wolverine, all right, what do we know about him? He has claws, right?
Mm-hmm.
He has berserker rage, and he has a healing factor. And kudos to LJN for getting all 3 of them in the game, and then anti-kudos for them for screwing each and every one of them up in execution. Like Joe said, you have to figure out that you have to pop your claws. All right, why would I want to fight without claws? Well, because if you fight with claws, it slowly takes away your health. Wolverine has a healing factor. That makes no sense at all.
Exactly.
That's what those cheeseburgers were for.
And then, you get the cheeseburgers and the beer.
And the booze, yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's what he loved. I'm surprised he didn't have cigars.
Yeah, right? That wouldn't have been a bad idea. But so you got to do that with the claws. As far as the healing factor goes, if you get, I think, some of that secret stuff, Havoc will come out and sort of like hang out with you while you heal, which I thought was weird. Like, this game would have been, what a weird choice too, of Havoc. This game would have been a lot better off to be one of those games to where if you find a good, quiet little hiding spot, like if you just sit still, you'll start to gain health back. That would make a lot more sense for Wolverine. So a swing on the miss on the claws, a swing on the miss on the healing factor. And the berserker thing was okay. I didn't have the problem that Joe had. I was able to move around while I was in berserker rage because it was kind of like getting the star in Super Mario Brothers.
Yeah,
but it basically, to build your meter up, you have to defeat opponents. And this game, that's the only benefit to your Pat. You mentioned it. You're much better off just avoiding. It's more of a game. You're a lot better off doing avoidance. I watched some like NES playthrough videos on YouTube of people who I saw a guy beat the game in like 30 minutes or maybe
I saw in about 20 minutes.
He was just avoiding everybody. And I was like, yeah, it's pretty much probably the smartest way you can do this. So it's like, why would you want to? Anyways, I'm just complaining about the whole setup. Maybe I'll have something positive for round 2, but we'll start round 2 with Joe.
All right. So I talked about the gameplay last round. This round, I'll talk about the music. Even though I do have a music segment later, I do want to get into the music now because that's one of the things that immediately I caught on to, started playing the game. So the intro music was great. Then you get to the first level and it's very dynamic and pulsing music and driving music, things like that. Then it switches to the second level and the music is even better. I'm like, oh man, this music is even better. Then you get to the third level and it's back to the first level's music again. It's like, okay. And then as you keep leveling, you realize there's really only 2 particular pieces of music that they switch each level. That was very frustrating to me, that they would just be that lazy. They couldn't generate or create music for each individual stage of the game. It was 1, 3, 5, and 7, 9 were the same. 2, 4, 6, 8 were the same. And then you had the side music when they had the cutscenes and things like that. I did not like that at all. I was, it was like that meme where the guy's smiling at something and then the next one he's like, oh.
I got it in my notes. You kind of just said it, but even the levels, even though they changed it up a little bit, they were still kind of just rinse and repeat of a level.
Yeah.
And, we're just going to move this over here, move this over there, and you still got to jump to this, do this platform, do this. Oh, there's fire on this one.
Yeah.
Or there was water on the, it's just rinse and repeat on this.
I like the one with the coffins and like.
That was cool.
Yeah.
That was cool.
It's like Ghosts and Goblins type vibe. Very weird.
You make a good point though, Pat. They did at least bring in like the swimming level. At least it mixed it up. Like,
yeah.
Wow. So I'll give him a little crap for that. But I actually not the musical genius, so I didn't pick up on the fact that it was the same 2 tracks. But I won't be able to miss it now, will I?
No. Yeah. And the other thing that was like, man, going through those water levels, it reminded me of the first Turtles game.
Yes.
Like, why did these levels have to be so hard?
Back in the day, man, they were just like, we're going to punish these kids.
Yeah.
We're going to make these kids earn it.
You can get a PS5, you could beat the Turtles on NES.
Oh, what do you think, Pat? Round 2, what you got?
I'm going to do some positive stuff about it. And you guys kind of mentioned the cutscenes. The cutscenes were actually decent. They weren't overly well done, but the portraits that were used, I thought represented the characters well. Kind of, I want to say pulled you into it, but at least tried to tell a story of what was kind of happening, but I still don't understand what was really happening. But I do like the cutscenes. The beginning was cool. And then I don't know if the cutscenes in between the levels were like, if there was one.
Usually just like Sabretooth.
Yeah, it was just Sabretooth. Here.
Yeah.
You think you got me? Ha ha ha. Or just some stupid
yeah. Some
Sabretooth
taunts.
joke. Yeah. Some toxic talk, and that was it. It's like, okay, bring it on, guy. Come on. And then at the end, all you had to do is kind of just off the cliff.
Sometimes you got to punch a dude off a cliff.
Yeah.
Sometimes you got to do it, but it just makes it. But I really did like the cutscenes, where I thought were pretty cool. It really gave the artistic value that you could do in that kind of level of pixels.
Yeah, this is definitely in the heyday of the Jim Lee. He drew the cover, box art, which I mentioned of. Everything you saw in there was based off of Jim Lee's work. It basically pixelized it to Nintendo as best they could, and then you could tell.
And it wasn't bad when you were playing the game. The pixel art for the character was pretty good.
Yeah, at least Wolverine looked like Wolverine.
Yeah.
Which is not something we can exactly say about this game's predecessor by LGN, which was the Uncanny X-Men. And that will be my quasi-high, is that this is not the Uncanny X-Men. I told you I'd bring it back up again. Like, this is not great, but compared to what came out before it, Uncanny X-Men, that's sort of this top-down, you can barely tell who's who. It's borderline broken. It's an awful game. It's just a terrible game. NES. This one, because it is the next, quote-unquote X-Men game, even though it's Wolverine solo mission, was a step up. So I will give it credit for that. That's the best. Basically, I'm complimented by saying it's not Uncanny X-Men, which is also released by.
See, and then I didn't have that baseline, so I can only compare this game to the game that I played. And yeah,
if you want to feel better about it, go play Uncanny.
Yeah,
it's like in the wintertime when you're cold in your house. Just go stand outside for a while and come back.
Yeah. It's not too bad in here. I can stand sitting around in the 40s.
Oh, but yeah. Aside from that, I thought it was odd that you usually end a lot of levels with like a boss fight. Most levels was like you just figure out how to get out.
Yeah, you're trying to get out of there.
You only fight, if I remember correctly, Magneto and Sabretooth.
That's correct. And that Magneto fight was dumb.
I still don't understand it.
Like,
I don't understand it either.
He's behind like some electric thing that moves around. I couldn't figure out how to get through it. But then you figure out, you can punch it.
Punch it.
Yeah, you just punch it a few times and you can get through. And then you have to punch Magneto, and he's just throwing, I don't know, some burst of energy out, and you have to jump in between to punch him. And he was kind of lame. But then that was like the penultimate scene. Then you have to fight Sabretooth. But who shows up is Jubilee and was it Psylocke? I forget.
Yes.
Yeah.
so.
Jubilee, Psylocke, and
like, why those two? Why did those? And why didn't they help? Why did they help throughout the game somehow? They just show up at the end, like, oh, there he is.
Yeah, they would pop up like in the secret rooms to give you something like here's some more Havoc energy or whatever. Like I said, Havoc would show up to like hang out with you while you healed if you had.
He's too busy. He's too busy.
Too busy havocing.
Before we move on, let's go ahead and score this. Let's get a 1 to 10 rating on Wolverine on the NES. Joe November's here, so we got Havsy's bat. We might as well make this.
Ooh, I love these days when we got Joe here.
He was excited. Pat, on a scale of 1
It's
to 10.
like December in November.
With November.
Yeah.
Anyway, Pat, 1 to 10 scale. I will remind you that I think we were really hovered on 10s when we did like Arkham Asylum. That one got a lot of high scores from us.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what our lowest scored one was. Maybe Silver Surfer.
Probably. Or was it Superman?
Anyway, whatever you're feeling, 1 to 10. Pat.
I am going to give this 4, but since Joe is here, I'm going with 4.5.
Oh, 4.5.
You know, but it's a below average game for me.
Yeah. Even by NES standards, like it's not fair to compare NES to like Arkham Asylum, but by NES standards, I agree, it's below standard.
Like you said, you kind of watched a playthrough of it. I watched a playthrough of it as well too, and it's like just 20-minute game if you know what you're doing.
Apparently,
yeah, everything's easy when you know what you're doing.
Yeah. But you got to think back in the day when that's all you had. You didn't have anything, but it's still
fair enough. I have a sneaking suspicion that Joe's not going to be as kind to it as you were. Let's find out. Joe, scale of 1 to 10.
Your suspicion has been confirmed. I'm giving this one 2.5 out of 10.
Oh,
I'd rather play Highlight than this game.
You did promise Highlight.
It was just the expectations were just set so high, and then the gameplay and the music and just the levels and how they just did everything was just so disappointing. Just so very disappointing that, I'd rather go play Highlight.
Yeah, that Nintendo era is such a mixed bag because you had people out there that really cared about the craft and the polish, and I'm looking at like Super Mario 3, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then you had people that are just like, you know what, if we get any kind of game out there and slap Wolverine's picture on it, kids are going to buy it. And I think that this falls into that latter category. And I'm going to be down there right around you guys. I think Pat was very generous with this 4.5. I'll probably land like at a 3.5. Not the worst NES game I ever played. There's plenty worse, but it does have that, let's just get it put out there. Let's put Wolverine's face on it. Licensed games that didn't have a lot of effort put into them is sort of the hallmark of the LJN.
I was going to say, it's kind of the...
every once in a while they'd slip up and make a halfway decent game, but that's because I think the developer, it's really how much the developer cares. And it probably has a lot to do with timelines and blah, 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 and things that I don't want to besmirch people that worked on the game. You never know what kind of timeline they had to work with or resources.
Sure.
LJN might have been like, hey, we'll give you $700 to make this game. You never know. So anyway, those are your scores. Not the best game we ever played, but hey, this was voted on by our folks on our Crusaders Club members, and we appreciate you guys voting on that. And half the fun sometimes is going and looking at the bad one.
Nice.
They can't all be winners. But you know what? I definitely did forget something, and I know what it is. Let's go back to Joe November, our on-staff musical genius. He's going to talk about the plethora, which equals 2, of the tracks of the music in his segment called Superconductor.
Thanks, Jarrod. So for this segment, I do want to touch upon a couple of things. Let's talk about the composer for this game. A very established guy in video game music production. His name is Jeff Fallon. He is a British video game composer. Or let me say he was a British video game composer. Not that he's no longer alive, but he just doesn't do video game music anymore. He's kind of moved on from it. And even though he's done a lot of work with Atari and NES games, he doesn't look back on his memories too fondly. He just thinks he grew up in a musical family, got into this profession, did it for a few years, and then decided he didn't like it anymore, and now he's a teacher. So that's who contributed to the music. But
Wolverine broke him.
yes, he's just like, I can't do this anymore. But like I said earlier, I love the music, when I didn't know that it was just going to repeat itself. But in and of itself, the game levels, if you look at the music for game level 1 and then for level 2, I really love level 2. The driving pulsing music of that one is very, very memorable to me. So I really give that one kudos. I just hate that it was just, repeated every other level. I tried to see if there were any video game remixes of it. I went to my go-to ocremix.org, and there was only one person who requested, hey, can someone make a remix of Wolverine? This was back in 2016, and nobody obliged. Nobody cared not to make a remix of it. So, Blobmaster, I'm so sorry that your request has not been fulfilled since 2016.
Shout out to Blobmaster. Hopefully his healing factor has healed his heart.
Yes. This game is heavy like my heart. But you can find audio clips of the game on the internet all throughout YouTube. And I did find one really cool sample flip of the game. Maybe we'll play a little bit of it right here. But that's all for Superconducted Musical segment. Let's throw it over to Pat to lead us in a discussion on how well the game captures the essence of the comic book in a segment called Reformatted.
Well, Joe, I am glad you asked. How well did this get reformatted from a comic book to a video game? Let's go ahead and find out. We'll start with Jarrod. Did this capture the essence of a Wolverine comic book?
For a game that we tore down a lot, it does have a lot of the pieces. I kind of mentioned it earlier. It has claws. It has berserker rage. It has a healing factor, none of which are executed very well. It's got burgers and beer, which we talked about. I totally agree with Joe. They should have put cigars in there. Cigars should have been part of that. It has Magneto. It has Sabretooth. It has Jim Lee box art. It has basically Jim Lee referenced in-game art. It looks like Wolverine when he's running around. So all those things are very, very big pluses. As far as minuses go, we kind of covered a lot of those. I don't want to take, we're probably going to all pretty much say the same thing here, but the in-game enemies, they didn't really connect. We've read enough X-Men comics, you and me, Pat, to know that, we've seen Wolverine fight those guys that hang out the Hellfire Club, and they all dress the same in that. They kind of look like mini Sentinels or
That's
Sentinels.
What I was trying to figure out. Yeah, that's what I was trying to figure out. Who these
generic, just
generic,
the level guys I saw no connection to, but I've already said enough. Really, they did look like Silver Surfer. It was weird.
Yeah,
bubble guys. And since when do bubbles do damage? I could talk for a while, but on the plus side, there's a lot of elements there that are there. They just as execution where it fell off from the comic book, but I said too much. Joe gets to say stuff.
I agree on that same sentiment that it seemed good on paper, but on the execution side, it just fell flat on its face. It did capture some of the essences of the comic book. It's just jumbled them around and reversed things and just kind of made up its own rules, given the lore of Wolverine and who he fights in the comics. Yeah, that's about as good as of a rating that I can give it as far as, capturing the essence of the comic book. Pat, what do you think about it?
I'm going to agree with both of you as well. Cover, it captured it. Gameplay.
Game cover is awesome.
Game cover is, that sold it. Game capture or character capture in game, Wolverine, yes. The rest of the stuff, not so much. Even Sabretooth and Magneto, yeah, I could tell it was them. I was looking for more bosses. At least, after each level, I was hoping for some sort of a bigger boss to fight. But no, all I got was a little caricature of Sabretooth, smack talking you. And that was
Yeah.
I hope you're not afraid of the dark.
I guess I got a scary level going. Jump into the fire. Oh, okay. I got to fight the fire level now. Or, hope you can swim. I got to do the swim level now.
Where did Sabretooth gain the capital to create all these obstacles for Wolverine?
I don't know. And they're so elaborate.
Amway. He does Amway.
Amway.
That was about it. The character art was close to the comic, and seeing Wolverine in his brown and yellow takes me back to the single issues of Wolverine. And you could say that maybe this was a little special mission because, in the single comics, he was, just by himself or, doing some off the side quests. Maybe that's why nobody else helped him because,
nobody knew where he was.
He's the best at what he does. And what he does is kick Sabretooth off a cliff.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
To me, this is maybe the most interesting game we've ever had for this segment of Reformatted. Because, like I said, all the elements are there.
Yeah.
Joe talked memes earlier. It's like the meme of the guy from The Office bringing the big pot of chili and it just spills it everywhere. That's the same thing. Like, it was all the ingredients were there. It just got spilled everywhere. This is an odd one.
And like you guys said, maybe, this company's known for a quick turnaround.
I think so.
Let's get cash money grab here and let's just do what we got to do and put it out there. So good for them. Good for them.
I think it bears mentioning how riding high the X-Men were in 1991. They were the top selling comic book and it wasn't close. X-Men was fire. And I think that's exactly what happened. Like, we got to cash in.
Yeah.
All right. Well, now that we've got the comic to game comparison all figured out, it's time to talk about our memories around the game. Let's hop into our DeLorean, get it up to 88 miles per hour. And when we get it up to 88 miles per hour, you're going to see some serious talk about the memories of this game and what was going on in our lives in a segment called Save Point. During our save point discussion, we will give you some context for the time that our featured comic game was released by discussing video game news of that time, what was playing at the movies, and what were some of the chart-topping songs. And then we're going to wrap it all up with our personal memories surrounding Wolverine. So here are the video game events and notable releases for October 1991.
All right, Pat, I put the segment together, and actually there wasn't a ton of notable releases or big events in October of 91. So what I actually did was run down what the best-selling games were in October of 91 in the U.S., the UK, and Japan. And I will start us off with the U.S. The best-selling game October 1991 was Sonic the Hedgehog on Sega Genesis and Super Mario World on the SNES. And I think everyone's surprise factor is probably at 0 because those were crazy popular games at the time.
So popular. Yeah. Yeah, that was my sophomore year in high school when all that came out. So I was definitely in the thick of playing those games and, just enjoying my high school life. And I didn't have a Genesis. I did have the Nintendo and Super NES. So I didn't really get into, the Sonic hype until I was an adult. So I didn't really get it, but definitely Super Mario World. I played the mess out of that game.
Mm-hmm.
But the best-selling game in the UK was a game on the Sega Genesis, which I didn't play, called Mercs. Did you guys ever play that game? I've never played it.
I feel like I've dabbled in it. When I saw the sales charts, and that's part of the reason I put it in there, I thought, what an interesting,
yeah.
I vaguely remember it. but apparently in the UK, they loved it.
Yes. Very, very odd. Yeah, I'm surprised it wouldn't have been Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yeah. Boggled my mind, too.
Very interesting.
Well, coming in for the best-selling game in Japan is Super Ghouls and Ghosts for the Super Nintendo.
They were probably over the Mario World because they got it first.
Yeah.
And that was probably the next step game. That's my guess. Is that was sort of like the next big game
To come out. Yeah, definitely.
That and Mercs, apparently.
Who knew?
Yeah, Genesis was a little bit more pricey than the Nintendo at the time? Possibly.
Sure.
I thought the Genesis was the one that was slightly more affordable.
Okay.
Because it had been out a little bit longer. A lot of people always think, Genesis and SNES were head-to-head, but actually the Genesis fought the NES for a while.
Yeah, that's true.
It's sort of that middle, anyways. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think by the time the Super NES came out, the Genesis folks were pretty smart and said, okay, we've already sold a bunch, but let's lower the price to kind of keep chipping away at Nintendo.
Yeah, smart.
All right. Well, then let's go ahead and go to the top 3 grossing films released in October of 1991. And I'll start us off with number 3, Curly Sue. Made $33 million. I don't know what Curly Sue is, but if it's a fry, I'm all for it.
It's one of them cute kid movies.
Oh, not Curly
She
Fry?
was like, she was a scamp, a rascal, if you will.
Like a Pippi Longstockings.
I'm trying to remember. I want to say
Or an Annie, yeah.
Jim Belushi was in that with her, or I might have made that up. Oh, well.
I didn't contribute to that 33 million, that's for sure.
Yeah, didn't get any of my dollars in the 33 million. I remember seeing previews for it and thinking, it looked kind of cute and funny. But anyways, coming in at number 2, making just $35 million, which was good back then, by the way, folks, was a movie called Other People's Money, which my spider sense says Danny DeVito.
I don't think I saw that one either.
Maybe I'd have to see a poster.
Well, coming in at number 1, surprisingly, was a documentary on Antarctica, and it made $66 million. And I went to look that documentary, and it's literally a 39-minute film. Why this made so much money in 1991, I have no idea.
Don't know either. It befuddled me when I did the research.
Like, what? What was the interest in that?
I'm wondering if it wasn't like sold to schools or something like that.
Right.
That could very well be. Because I don't remember it being in theaters.
No.
I have those vague memories of Curly Sue and Other People's Money, but when I saw Antarctica, this documentary, and you said it's not even an hour long?
No, it's not even an hour long.
That's weird. Any listener out there, if you know what's up with Antarctica from October of 91, let us know.
If you saw it, let us know too.
Yeah.
I heard it was pretty cool.
It was. Gotcha.
Joe got trapped in the Jarrod joke. He got trapped there.
It was pretty chill movie.
And let's go into some chill music for the top 3 songs that were playing on your favorite pop radio station during October 1991.
All right, so coming at number 3 was Karen White with Romantic. Turn the lights down. It's time to get romantic. So that's the premise of the song. It was a very catchy song, the Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis song, but I found some interesting trivia about the song itself. So someone said on YouTube that song ended Mariah Carey's 3-week stay at the top of the charts with the song Emotions. And then the following week, Karen White was dethroned by Prince and the New Power Generation with Cream. Interesting to see what songs beat each other out on the pop charts. And a lot of them revolved around that Minneapolis sound. Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis and Prince. So I thought that was cool. That's what was the production at the time.
I could definitely see why Prince was trying to get on top.
Shaboogie bop.
Well, coming in at number 2 is Do Anything by Natural Selection. Man, I love that song. Do anything for your loving.
I
I love it so
I think Jarrod and I have a mutual love for that song, don't we?
Yes, we do. It's
do.
like one of my very, very favorite 90s songs. Smooth to the groove like sandwich bread.
Oh,
I remember just loving that song. I captured it off the radio on my cassette.
I got it on cassette single.
Oh,
Yeah.
fancy. The weird part is, for the longest time when I first had it for maybe a year, I thought it was a Prince song. It has a very
It does
Prince
sound.
sound.
It's got that vibe. Yeah,
And I was
definitely.
like, oh, this is that new Prince jam, you know? And no, wrong again. His actual selection. But Prince was, as Joe mentioned, about to kick in the door on those charts. But he wasn't number one at this time. Number one, either soon to be dethroned or, as we found out, would be Mariah Carey with Emotions. And I mean, come on. And Mariah Carey, the world was her oyster. Like, she had a hit song every 45 minutes, I swear, at this time.
Yeah, she was living a dream.
You got me feeling it. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't have any jokes for that, Pat. But I mean, you know, it's funny back in like 1991 when you're a teenage boy, you're like, oh, it's girl music, stupid. But now when I listen to it, I was like, man, it's a
not
good
bad,
jam,
yeah.
and she's very talented.
You know, back then, and let's go ahead and kind of go into our memories surrounding today's featured games as we talk about. I think I have more memories around the music in that. You know, it's October 1991. Where were you? What were you doing? And you mentioned the music. I graduated in 91. So just coming off of graduation, October, it's already another year. Either you're going to college or you're going to work or you're out in the workforce or you're starting your life. For me, that's the life of my adulthood life at this time. I didn't go into college. I was working, so I kind of just did some career stuff for right now. And, you know, this was the time where I was looking at maybe moving out from my parents' house, having those emotions, making me feel it. Do I want to move out? Do I not want to move out? You know, trying to find a girl that I would meet. We'd go cruising. You know, we used to have a place where we would go cruising at the park, which was the local park. So we called it the park. But you could go cruise through there and, you know, you got these songs playing either on the radio or through my cassette with my cassette single. Put that song in and jam that up, and just a lot of fun. 1991 was it's a new beginning for the Pat. What about you, Jarrod?
1991 would have been my freshman year of high school, kicking off. A lot of fond memories. I was living in North Carolina. Loved the music of the time, like you said, Pat. You know, I was really listening to the radio, hoping Natural Selection would come on, hoping Prince would come on. And I would capture them on my cassettes, you know. And this game really ties into, because I'm shopping for comics at the local comic shop, which I could walk to from my house. I lived on base housing. This was before bases really got locked down post September 11th. So I could actually go out my house, out my back door, through the woods behind my house, and I would come out on the main strip at Fayetteville.
Oh, wow.
And just walk down the main strip, and the comic book shop was down there. And Jason, boy, he was buying some X-Men. Big time. He's a big Jim Lee X-Men fan. So that really ties into the game. So I'm definitely remembering the music, definitely remembering the comic books and the movies too. We would go to the movies a lot because there's a really nice theater in town. It's called the Omni. And as far as I know, it's still there. And there's a Dollar House. There's a Dollar Theater. That's how I saw the previews, at least, for Curly Sue and Other People's Money, because my mom would take us there all the time because my dad is in Desert Storm. It's just my mom taking care of us, and you got to do something to keep those kids busy. So she'd go down and plunk down that $1, and we'd go watch a movie all the time because it was just affordable and it was something to do. So yeah, those are my memories. What about you, Joe? Bring it home.
Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, October 1991 was my sophomore year in high school. I was heavy into band. I was into percussion. Freshman year, I played the bass drum, and then I moved to snare drum my sophomore year. So that was, during football season. So we were always traveling to games and playing at games. And then I'll get ready for basketball season as I was starting to ramp up around, early fall. So those are my memories. And this was all back in Kentucky. Those are my memories of October of 91.
I'm glad we all have such positive ones. It seems like we're all having a good time.
Yeah. Good times.
Well, speaking of good times and good people, let's talk about people that we're thrilled to kick off some comments about. We got special shout outs to our Crusaders Club members. These are the fine folks who have joined our crusade, and they enjoy early access to special Longbox Crusade stuff. They get to vote on show content like they picked the game that we covered here today. So thank you for voting on that, Crusaders Club members. And then they get entered for raffles. They get priority seating on podcasts, so much more. These are the folks reaping the benefits and giving some much appreciated support to the show.
Let's start off with Angelica Wolf.
Auburn Elvis.
Bill Beer.
Blast it or stash it.
Braxton Underwood.
Captain Entropy.
Clinton Robertson.
Dave Collins, but you know him as the Battle Wagon.
Battle Wagon.
Gary V.
Gerald Green.
Jason Keene.
Jason Lady.
Jeremy L.
Jim Jarman. I hope you like Jim Jarman too.
Jim Meal.
Who's this Joe Thomas guy?
That's some made-up name.
Some made-up name.
We love Joe.
John Watson.
Josh Strickland.
Candace Ward.
Kathy Bright, the MVP.
Mark Ross.
Matt and Lissy Paso.
Maxwell Traver.
Miranda W.
P.D. Devins.
Paul Hicks.
Rick from Jeff and Rick Present.
Rob Morgan.
Samantha Maney.
Sean Urbanski.
Spidey 67.
Spreadsheet.
Steve Cronin.
Tim Price.
Tony Pennington.
And the Toronto Cop. If we miss anyone on the list, we apologize. Keep in mind we record these episodes well in advance for release. If you're a recent edition, we'll add you soon. You can always let us know we missed you by sending an email to contact@longboxcrusade.com, and we will get it straightened out. And if you're asking yourself, how do I get in on this? How do I become a Crusaders Club member? Just go to patreon.com/longboxcrusade for as little as just $1 a month. You'll get access to the amazing World of Crusaders Club. We encourage you to come and check it out. And if you don't have any extra scratch lying around, but you want to help us out here at Longbox Crusade headquarters, how about you go over to YouTube, check out Longbox Crusade, maybe give us a subscription. All right. We got one item of feedback from our last episode where we covered Arkham Asylum. And
I think they cracked the code on this one.
I think I figured out what it says. I think someone was typing very fast.
Yeah, we had a baby, it's a boy.
Good reference. I forgot about it. We had a baby, it's a boy. All right, we got a feedback, and it is from a guy named Aaron DeMonte. Thanks for the feedback, Aaron. And Aaron typed, I think, rather quickly. I think it says they need a Marvel DC game.
Yes.
Well, it's if I read it literally, it says they need a Marvel DC game.
Exactly.
I think what Aaron was getting at is they need a Marvel DC game. Have they ever done I know they did Mortal Kombat in DC.
I don't know if there's been like a Street Fighter kind of mix up or something. Maybe
I don't think they've ever really crossed.
In Street Fighter. I know. Capcom and Marvel keep beefing.
Oh, that's right.
But I would agree, though. That would be cool.
Yeah, that would be cool.
That's licenses on top of licenses, though. It's going to be tough. But
yeah, and who would own the publishing for that one? And yeah, all the ownership would just be But
hey, you know what? If Sony and Marvel can get together to get Spider-Man into the Marvel Universe and the FF and all that from Fox, then anything's possible.
Anything is possible. Yeah, I agree.
Thanks for sending that in, Aaron. Joe, how about you do us a favor? Give the folks a reminder of how they can get in touch with us if they want to chat about the show or any of the shows under the Longbox Crusade umbrella.
Definitely. You can find any of our many fine programs on anywhere fine podcasts are found. We're also on YouTube, or visit our website at www.longboxcrusade.com. If you'd like to keep the conversation going, hit us up on social media. We're on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube as @LongboxCrusade. Email us at contact@longboxcrusade.com. Finally, you can leave us a voicemail at 707-532-5269. That's 707-532-LBOX.
Pick up the phone. Up, down, left, right, PA, start. All right. I want to thank the team for being here. And here's where you can find us if you want to chat with us on the internet. We will start with you, Pat.
Well, Jarrod, I'm glad you asked. You can find me on the Twitter at Christatos01. Joe, where can folks find you and the stuff that you do?
Sure. Thanks, Pat. So I'm on all streaming services as Joe November, music services, that is. I'm also on Facebook, Twitter or X, Instagram, Spotify, SoundCloud, Bandcamp. Yeah, that's where you can find me. So definitely take a look.
Yeah, definitely, folks. Go take a look and listen to what Joe is putting out there with his beats. The beats are, man, just fresh and crazy. I love them.
Well, I'm going to brag on Joe before I tell people where they can find me on the internet because this is the video game show. And there's a guy who does a lot of very cool video game oriented rap named Mega Ran. And Mega Ran ran a big old beat contest over on Twitch. And the champion of said beat contest is right here on the show, Mr. Joe November.
I just submitted that beat to Overclock Remix yesterday, and they responded back. They're like, "Hey, we remember you. We loved your last beat, so I can't wait to look into this one." So,
so cool. I was watching it live. I was voting, campaigning hard for Joe in the chat. I don't think he needed it, but I want to underscore something. Joe didn't just win. I mean, it wasn't close. It was not close. Joe just blew it. And those other beats were very good.
Yes, they were extremely good. Extremely good.
And it's so funny that I've been his friend so long, listening to beats from back in the day when he used to send them to me on compact disc, by the way.
Yes.
With a handwritten marker that said, DJ, I think he was going by DJ Kool-Aid back then.
Yes, I was going by DJ Kool-Aid back in the day. I forgot about that.
But man, it's funny because he won't, when they play the beats, they don't say who it's from. So there's no swaying, the people. I can hear it. I'm like, that's Joe. Every time like that, and he killed it. He absolutely killed it. We're very proud of you, Joe. That was awesome.
Thank you. That was awesome. Thank you so much.
No problem. And after I build Joe up, if for some reason you want to talk to me, I'm at Yard Sale Artist. It's at Yard Sale Artist, Twitter, X, Facebook, Instagram. It's all at Yard Sale Artist. You can check out my artwares at www.theyardsaleartist.com. Thank you for joining us. We hope you'll continue to join us on this podcast as we go on our crusade to play them all.
The music themes for this show are done by musical genius Joe November. Please check out his SoundCloud at Josephline99. That's Josephline 99. You will not regret it.
I did not think it wise to overwhelm you while your memory was still fragile. So rather than that, I thought it best to assume a temporary form. That princess was my own daughter, my dear Zelda. You must save her and do whatever it takes to annihilate Ganon.
I think that's you, Jarrod.
It is. I keep spacing out on my turn. Here we go. I'm just laughing because Software Creations, I think we've had them before. We joked about the most generic name.
Yeah. Let's call themselves Acme Creations.
Yeah, what would you say you guys do?
Well, we create stuff.
Okay.
Anyways, let me do cache memory. Well, anybody else got any burning thoughts on this before we move on to Joe's segment?
Did we do the score? Do we need to do the score here?
Look, who's in charge of this, me or you?
I'm just asking. I'm just asking the question.
It's clearly you because you know what you're doing and I don't. All right.